when he came to this country to go to college to get his master's degree, he came with nothing. You know, the classical story of I started with nothing. So he actually said, though, he had two suitcases with clothes, some family knickknacks, maybe some, you know, Indian snacks or something. But essentially, he just had the clothes that he was going to wear during his time at college and, you know, some basic school supplies. And he worked, he finished his college degree. He worked as an engineer for a short period of time, living with like 5 other guys in a studio apartment just to save enough money. He had married my mother prior to coming over and left her in India with family. And then he brought her over she came over in the early 70s. I was born in 1973. And so they lived a very, very tight, on a very tight budget in the city of Chicago in apartments. And my mom tells me that she kept catching me eating bugs off the floor because they were very, you know, dirty apartments they were living in. So she insisted that my father find a place that was much nicer. So we moved to the Chicago suburbs, and I've been in that area now for the last 40 plus years, besides my time in college. So, you know, I reflected on this story, and as I got older and I had more conversations with my father, I realized that it was not an intentional lie, but it was a lie. It was actually a myth, probably more accurately. And what I realized is that he didn't start with nothing. He started with very little material goods, but he had an entire mountain of moral capital that he brought with him to this country. And, you know, on that reflection of that is where kind of I've been driving home this 3-word phrase for the campaign of family, friends, and faith. And reflecting on my father's experience, he was the youngest of 3 children, and he was kind of a prodigy in his village in terms of educational prowess. So his father and all of our ancestors in the past were all farmers. In this small village, they raised wheat. You know, they had a couple of cows perhaps for milk, and you know, just kind of moving maybe some bulls to plow the fields. But they're very, very modest farmers. But my grandfather said, no, you are going to get an education and you're going to go out into the world and make a difference. And he sensed that way back in, you know, the 50s, that my father had this capability in him. And not only that, the community rallied around him as well. And so they pulled together resources to send him to a boarding school where he excelled and, you know, was able to get a college scholarship in India and then eventually get passage over here. Okay. And obviously, you know, coming over here with nothing intact in terms of finances, he was carrying the weight, but also the pride and the energy and the prayers and the well wishes of his entire community, you know, and obviously the love of his family. And in an Indian culture, like many, you know, ethnic cultures, family wasn't just your nuclear family. It was cousins and aunts, uncles, and many times removed would be considered your, you know, there's no name for cousin in Gujarati. There's no name for cousin. You call everybody brother, you know, like in the Bible where Jesus, you know, has many brothers, right? So there's no word for that. You treated everyone as if they were your direct sibling. You know, when you would get together, there was no difference. So, you know, when he came over to this country, that was a very, very significant, you know, capital that he did bring with him. And I just saw you know, I wasn't going to talk about this when Norm first asked me to speak, but I saw this meme where someone was trying to say that there's no such thing as white privilege because there was a table of values where Indians were at the top of the median family income at $118,000. And then moving down from there were like the Chinese and Koreans and Pakistanis and many other, you know, people who have come over recently. And then whites had a median family income of like 65,000, and then blacks were on that table at 41,000, you know. And I think the author or the creator of the meme's point was, you see, like all these people have made it, right? So there's no excuse. This is the American dream. And my response to that is, I don't know if many people in America anymore have any moral capital, right? Because the moral capital that comes, that you derive from really intensely close family bonds, extends into your community and makes you respect like all of the all the relationships you have at a very deep level. And I was talking to, I don't know if John Maydai is here. I think he was planning on coming, but I was talking to him earlier this afternoon. And I said, John, you know what really frightens me is when someone says, you know, I lost my home and I'm in danger of becoming homeless. Because to me, when I think about my own family ties and my friend ties and all the ties I have at church, I am 50 levels removed from ever becoming homeless, you know, and that's no great thing that I've done. It's just my understanding and the relationships I have, that if I lost everything I have right now, I have such a lucky network of people I can turn to in times of crisis. And the fact that we're in a society where there are people that haven't been able to make those bonds, or their neighbors haven't helped them make those bonds, and then no one's looking out for each other, that is what I feel like the American Solidarity Party is about. And that's what this campaign is about, because I don't see any other candidate anywhere really talking about that crisis, the crisis of moral capital and the crisis of foundational relationships and institutions that are crumbling because of the liberal, capitalistic, and hedonistic society that we live in. Those things keep breaking down. It doesn't matter who's in office, because the ground is dissipating as we speak.